and helping you to adjust to the person that you really are. It's really quite terrible.
It is, and it's the tragedy here. What I'm curious about, maybe let me rephrase the way I was going to approach this. What I'm curious about is, what do you think? Is there any hint in the story about what the consequences are for the clinic? Like, did they say you can't, or you have to shut down? Did they say
no,
you can't use puberty blockers anymore?
No.
What's
the court has not ruled out using puberty blockers in this case. What the court has ruled out is the idea that somebody who's 16 years old or younger can simply give their consent. And so what they're saying is there has to be, essentially what they seem to be saying, and I haven't read the judgment, I'm just going from the news story, okay? So I'm putting a little bit of my own interpretation into this, but what they seem to be saying is this is an experimental treatment. We're not doctors. We're not sure whether it's the right treatment or the wrong treatment. But if this is the right treatment, people have to understand that the consequences of going down this road are potentially permanent, potentially dangerous, and psychologically damaging. And as a consequence, and you cannot expect that a 16-year-old or younger has the capacity to understand all of that stuff. And so therefore, you cannot rely on their consent alone.
Well,
in other words, you have to have parental consent, and in the case of an actual conflict between parents and doctors and kids, that somebody, whether it's a court or whatever, has to be able to step in and sort this stuff out. Now, in that respect, I don't think this ruling goes far enough. I think that the idea of puberty blockers should be banned totally. To me, this is like treating malaria with leeches, okay?
Curing a common cold with a blunt, sharp object.
Yeah, I think it's horrific, and I think that this is something that should never happen.
Although I haven't figured out how you can have a blunt, sharp object yet.
That never actually occurred to me, Nick.
I just say, as I said that, I thought, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, usually your cliches do make sense.
Yeah, not in this case. I blew that one.
But I
a cold, sharp object, maybe.
But I think our listeners got the point.
Yeah.
I think they understood well the point you were making.
I think they know me well enough now that they just went, oh yeah, that's another one of his stupid cliches. Let's just let it roll.
Yeah. So anyway, what I'm saying here, Nick, is that I don't think the ruling went far enough. I don't think it accomplished what it ought to have accomplished. But it's nice to see a court in the UK starting to push back a little bit and say, okay, we're a little uncomfortable like this, so let's tap on the brakes a little bit here, guys. I'm not really sure that what you're doing here is sensible.
One of the reasons why we wanted to bring this to our audience was we wanted to report on something that was good news for once, because it is good news. Now, does it go far enough? No, but you can't. If you lose ground, you have to make it up, and sometimes it's like the Battle of the Somme. You gain a very few yards for huge cost, and this may be one of those little victories that we can look back on later and say that was one of the turning points. So I wanted to, and I know you did too, was to present this and say, folks, it's not always doom and gloom. Sometimes there is good news out there, and it's okay to tell you about it once in a while.
It is.
There's enough negatives.
Absolutely. Okay, we're coming to the bottom of the hour, so we're going to go for another break and for a few minutes. If you're listening to the live show, stay with us. Although, after an hour and a half, you may want to stand up and stretch your legs a little bit. And you might want to go and, freshen your drinks up or whatever. And if you're listening to the podcast, well, we will catch you on part 4 of the Nick and Joe Show, episode 135. So stick with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in a few minutes.